Good evening. It is 5:30. I will call this regular council meeting to order, June 22nd. We have a very full agenda today, so we're going to be quite efficient in our methodology through it. The City of Lacombe acknowledges that we live, work, and govern on shared territory of Treaty 6. We honor the histories, languages, cultures, and continuing contributions of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and other First Nations, as well as the Métis people of Battle River District 3 and beyond. We affirm our ongoing relationship with this land and commit to the respectful and meaningful engagement with Indigenous peoples as partners in our community. First on our agenda will be the consent agenda. It is there before you. Are there any items that need to be pulled from that agenda, or someone willing to make the recommended motion? Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Very good. I'll call the question. Please vote. And that is unanimous. Next item of business would be the adoption of the regular agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? I have no additions. If someone would like to make that motion. Councillor Proud.
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Very good. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. Very good. That is unanimous. So first on our agenda then has open forum. We have two open forums. Just before we start into that, I just want to explain what the point of an open forum is. It's an opportunity for members of the public to come and speak to any item that they wish, with a very few exceptions, one of them being it can't be an item that's later on the agenda. Another thing would be, for example, about a specific employee. That would be not appropriate. But otherwise, this is an opportunity so that the public has, they can present something, ask questions to council at large. It of course isn't the only way that you're able to engage with council. There are many avenues, and if you want to know more about that, then please reach out and we'll do that. Public forum items are 5 minutes in total. I will hold you to 5 minutes. How it works is I will invite the presenter up to the table. I'll introduce you, but then the timer starts. So 5 minutes, I will cut you off after 5 minutes. And I hate to sound very harsh on that, but it's just we have a very full agenda and these meetings can run very long and we're making very important decisions. So that's why it's 5 minutes. There are other avenues, as I was mentioning, to communicate with council. And so I encourage you to do that if you feel like you didn't have the opportunity to get your message across. So our first open forum item today is Mr. McLaughlin. I would invite you to take the presenter's table. Absolutely. You take your time. Just make sure the bar is on yet. And so, Mr. McLaughlin, I understand you're here to speak on the laneway housing. The floor is yours.
I'm not sure how many of you have been able to have a look at this. I sent this to Maura McCowie as a response to a meeting I had with her, and it outlines some of the concerns and ideas that I have for I call it laneway housing rather than alley housing, as a higher note to it. I'm not here to complain. I'm here to make suggestions. I'm also here to talk about a couple of concerns that we have. So because the time is short, what I'll do is just assume that most of you have been able to have access to this. You can have a look at it. Moira has my phone number if anybody is interested in talking to me about it. The only things that I'll say is there's a lot of laneway housing in the city right now. And I think there is an opportunity for something unique. And I don't know whether, many of you remember the redevelopment of Innisfil's downtown, but that provoked a lot of interest in terms of urban planning, and both provincially and federally and internationally. So there is opportunities here. The only thing that I'll say is when these were built, council and the city rezoned the properties for housing or for this type of housing. So there, to me, the city should bear at least a portion of some of the concerns and that sort of thing that people may have living there. I think we can promote or laneway housing to the point where, as I said, it can be something unique, but it can also develop small communities in each of these laneways. And one of the things that we could do is to name them and provide that sense of community to people for living along there. The city went along with the zoning, the changes. I think in the case of a fourplex like we live in, you get 4 times the amount of property tax that you got from the property to begin with. So there is some extra money available that could be put into a reserve every year, a small amount, maybe 20% of the taxes collected, that you could turn around and use for improvements in that area. So one of the things that I have an issue with is the condition of our alleyway. And this is something we've talked about before, but it's past the point where small things can make a big difference. It has to be redeveloped. So this is something I'd like to talk to people from the city about. But I'm giving you a general presentation. As I said, I would certainly welcome anybody giving me a call to discuss it. I think there are opportunities there. I think that the city can bring some uniqueness to Lacombe. One of the issues that we're having is the closing of the research center. There should be money available from the provincial and federal governments for higher density housing. That's what this is. So again, there may be more money available. So I don't think there's a whole lot more that I could add to it, given the time. So I'll open it up to anybody that might have a couple of short questions.
Sure. Is there anyone that has any questions? Councillor Contenti.
Sure, thank you, Mr. McLaughlin, for that. You mentioned these developments. What are you meaning specifically, these developments?
Can you speak up? I can't hear.
What kind of developments are you talking about when you say these developments? Are you talking infills anywhere or specific locations you have in mind, or what?
No,
what are you referring to?
This is something that I think that the city could develop a kind of a quasi partnership with the developers in this area and come up with some unique housing and that sort of thing. There are some long lots in Lacombe that could be subdivided. Houses could be put on the back with a laneway access. There's all sorts of ideas. And as I said in my email, one of my pursuits in university was urban planning, and I've always had an interest in it. So,
Very good. Any additional questions? Does not appear to be. This is definitely sort of a topic that's already being contemplated in some upcoming amendments to the bylaw, the land use bylaw. So very timely. Good on you for that. I definitely feel like I might reach out to you to have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation. So
there's going to be pressure on housing
Absolutely.
and available housing over the next few years. there was an article in the Herald that said they need 5,500 new housing units in Cochrane before 2031. So that puts a lot of pressure on things.
There's definitely a lot of things happening in the province right now. Another conversation that we're having in the community is updating our housing needs assessment. So that again is something that would play
Yeah.
into that as well, as you were saying about densification, particularly in the downtown. So again, I appreciate your presentation.
Yeah, I'm available also to address any meetings or community meetings that you might have coming up too. So
Sure.
I appreciate.
Thank you.
The next item, I have an interest in. So if you don't mind, sit here.
This is a public meeting. You can stay right to the end as much of it as you like. Yeah, absolutely. We like a gallery. Oh, you won't be able to speak to his item, unfortunately. You can observe, but this is his item now. Yeah. No. Just 1 second. Can you just help him with the, yeah. And just hold on one moment, because we'll just wait for Mr. McLaughlin to get out of the way so that you have our full attention. So Mr. Kangura, it is my understanding that you're here to speak to primarily a liquor store, proximity, business license, etc. So I will let you have the full 5 minutes in just a minute. Definitely you can split it amongst friends if you like, but I still will only give you 5 minutes. Absolutely follow up with us after the fact if you don't feel like that was enough time. So just make sure that your bar is lit so that you have the microphone on, and the time is now yours.
I'll tell you about myself. I came to this country on and a rural entrepreneur stream sponsored by Alberta government. My contract was signed by the Minister of Immigration, right? And I invested around $300,000 in this community. And I got a community support letter from the city of Lacombe as well, right? That is the first step before starting any business. I established this business and invested almost 3 years in this town. My family is here. We moved from India to here, and then we did everything to establish this business. Today, I am supported by community members, Mr. Ram, Ms. Kinley, Mr. Ross, and Brian. And thank you for coming here. And with their support, I make this business successful, right? And one fine day, I got a shock that city has approved another liquor store just 30 to 40 meters away from my liquor store. Even in big cities, there are no liquor stores 30 to 40 meters away, 40 meters distance from each other. There can be liquor stores just opposite to the road, but there is a different traffic for them. In this town, when there is no community coming up, no apartment building coming up, no population is increasing, nothing is going on, and the city of Lacombe has approved another liquor store. I think this is what I feel, that city has given a competition, put me in the competition. Either the both will lose the business or both will die down, right? The potential of one liquor store is not that it is making millions of dollars. Definitely, I can give you the financial, you can assess the financials. Both businesses are not going to survive. There are 10 liquor stores in this town. Out of the 10, 2 are sold 3 or 4 times in 3 years. You can imagine the conditions, why businesses are selling. If they are not doing good, I will put this button to the other to the next to the next. So it means one of the oldest liquor store, I will not name it, was listed few months back. It means out of the 10, 3 are not doing good. And now the city has approved 2 more liquor store licenses. It means there are going to be 12 liquor stores when the population is same. No new community is coming up in this area. Nothing development is going up. And I was surprised that when the city is developing a parking lot to a commercial plaza, they are giving notice to tenants, landlords, everybody to this to the close proximity about this. And when the city gave the license to new liquor store, they didn't even inform me. I had a very good meeting with Mr. Steve, Community Development Officer. He was giving me tips how to do the business. I'm a mechanical engineer and an MBA, so I know how to survive the business. I'm ready for the competition with 10 liquor stores. But that is totally wrong if you put one liquor store just adjacent to my store. That is totally wrong. You will agree to that, directly or indirectly, right? Now it's my question of my survival. If city want to give 100 new liquor store licenses, I cannot raise any kind of objection. It's up to the city. But there should be some sensible distance between 2 liquor stores. Just in the same plaza, you are giving another liquor store license. Mr. Steve was not able to explain why they gave this license. What is the reason, right? Just randomly they gave the license. And now it's the question of my survival. I spent almost $250,000 or $300,000 to come here. If any government calls in foreigners to invest in their state or in their country, there should be some assurance. I knew that there is a competition in this town for the liquor stores, but I'm ready for the competition. But I never imagined that city will backstab me, right? It seems that the Alberta government under a rural entrepreneur stream, they are trapping a person, foreigners, and putting their investments in the state, and then the city backstab them and they give license to another liquor store, another same kind of business is just adjacent to that.
I'm going to have to cut you off there because we have gone
Yeah.
over 5 minutes.
Mhm.
I do want to give the opportunity if there's any questions from council. Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I appreciate you bringing this to council, and I empathize with you from liquor store owner to liquor store owner. We opened in 2015, and at that time we were the 6th liquor store to open in Lacombe. We're a family-owned business. We're lifelong Lacombe residents. And in the last 11 years, we've seen many stores open, many stores close. I am a strong believer that private business should remain in the private sector and that the market should dictate which stores sink or swim, to say. There are examples of other liquor stores in Lacombe that operate just beside each other, as I'm sure you're aware, right?
I'm not supporting that. It's also wrong.
Sir, it's the opportunity for us to potentially ask questions. Otherwise, your 5 minutes is up.
Thank you,
Continue,
Mayor
please.
Hibbs. So there are other examples of successful operations that operate right beside each other in Lacombe. I appreciate your passion. That's what I wanted to share. Appreciate your passion. And
See,
as a,
I have.
Sir, you're out of order.
No, I'm just answering.
Councillor Goings is commenting right now. If she asks you a question, then absolutely you can answer, but
No,
she has
I'm
not asked you a
answering
question.
to her
She has
question.
not asked you a question. She has the floor right now. She's the only one that's to speak.
Okay.
I appreciate your passion, and I was going to offer that I would love to collaborate with you as a local business owner, a local liquor store owner. If you would like to collaborate as business owners, I would be open to that. So thank you for your passion and keep up the great work. I wish you lots of success.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Does not appear to be. I think that this will be something that I'll reach out to because I do feel like you've had some questions that you don't feel have been answered. And I feel like I might have some of those answers, at least from my perspective. So I will reach out to you again by email if that's okay. Or we
I
can
have-
arrange a meeting as well. That would be
I have a
fine.
question. I'm not the businessman who has invested only 20%, 10%, 20% from my pocket. Rest is from the banking or the financial institution.
We can talk about this.
I
Sir,
invested my
sir,
own life
I'm going to have to make you out of order here. We'll have this conversation after the fact outside of chambers. I'll follow up with you tomorrow. This is an important conversation. I'm not trying to brush you off. I just know that I have hours of a meeting still to go tonight and I have big decisions that I need to make with my council colleagues here. So I'm not dismissing you. I'm just going to have to delay this conversation to a non-public time that we have more time to have a proper conversation. So that is my commitment to you. Absolutely. This is my public commitment to you, so I won't let you down. Okay? No, you can't. No, I'm sorry. It's 5 minutes and it's 5 minutes for an item and we discussed that already at the beginning of the, before the council. Sorry, I'm done talking about this. We're going to move on in our agenda. Our next agenda item is a presentation, or two presentations rather. First is MLA Johnson. I would invite you to come up to the table. So thank you for making time for us to do a presentation. I'll give you the floor right away because you've been here before, you know how it works.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hibbs and Council. Thank you for the invitation to be here. And is this, I was wondering, is this the first time I've been here since the election, I think?
Yes.
And it's so nice to see, it was nice to see the faces then and new, fresh faces here this time around too. So thank you for the invitation and for being here today. I did have several questions that were presented to me before, and so I will try to answer them and be as brief as I can. Number one was the ADAP and AISH, and if I can, I'm going to leave that one till third, even though that was question number one. FCSS funding, I'm sorry, I don't have good news on that, as it has been for like 20 years now. What I can offer you is that I lobby constantly and say that the next ones on the table have got to be FCSS. It's been a long time since we've seen an increase in there. I do have those conversations with the ministry, and that's all I can offer. If you have questions about it, we can come back to it. Alberta, sorry. Alberta Public Libraries and Bill 28 and how municipalities, library boards, and library professionals will be consulted, and how local governance, privacy, access, and workable implementation will be maintained. And I would just offer on this that it will be maintained as it always has been. The consultation that went into it before was taking cross sections of librarians and of industry and coming to the conclusions with recommendations from stakeholders in there, and it will continue as that. And so to come back to ADAP and AISH, how the province plans to communicate changes, it is ongoing. It has been one of the loudest responses we've heard probably for a little while. And rightly so, we're dealing with a very vulnerable group of people, one of the largest groups of vulnerable people in Canada. There's 80,000 people on AISH currently in the province, and they have very complicated needs and very diverse needs. And that is why this bill came about. Maybe if I can just take one moment to address how AISH and ADAP are going to be adapting. 80,000 are currently on AISH. A good portion of those are going, a good portion, not all, will be transferred over to ADAP July 1st. Those ones that will transfer are ones that hopefully all will be able to have the opportunity to go to work on. AISH can never work. It is for, as the SH implies, severely handicapped. They will never be in the workforce and they will remain on AISH. And a good portion of the ones that are on AISH now will remain on AISH. They will not transfer to ADAP at all. So there's great security in that. Those that will transfer, there will be some of those that will come back because there will be that little bit of flux. And up until December 31st, everyone transferred to ADAP will continue to have full funding. So ADAP will be $200 less than AISH, but it's because it's a program designed for people to earn income. So naturally, they wouldn't be making as much, and up to $700 a month without any decline in their benefits. And they also get great health benefits on top of that. So we'll see in the up until July 1st. I know there's a lot of turmoil and uncertainty and fear about this. And I was just saying to someone, I've spent more with this department than probably all other departments combined, trying to figure out information and get questions answered. And they've been great at answering, and they just keep saying, Jen, hang on, just wait till July 1st. And we'll see where things land. Because they have full confidence there that it is going to be successful, and there's always going to be kinks with changes, and they're ready for it. They have got a great staff in place and are anticipating a very busy July. Maybe it won't be, but they're anticipating it to be that and are prepared for whatever comes their way. So I hope that answers some of the questions, and if you have more, I'd be delighted to go forward with those.
Are there any questions? Councillor Dyke-Slag.
Thank you, MLA Johnson, for being here today. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. In regards to the AISH question, and those that'll be moving to the new program, a part of that is employment. What do you know that the ministry is going to do to support those people to find the jobs? Because what I'm hearing from them is it's nearly, for a lot of them, impossible to even find that part-time work. And then they're having to have that reduction in their monthly income, which is fairly poverty level already, right? So
yeah, excellent question. They're going to be put in touch with employment services, and if they can't find a job, they'll go back to AISH and have full benefits. They will not lose. I know that sounds like a really simple, easy answer, but that's the truth of it. And they are going to be very busy finding work for a lot of people. But that is intent that if you're depressed, you shouldn't be on AISH. You need mental health help. And you should be able to be working out of that. That's not a lifelong disorder that says you will never work. We've got many, many people like that on AISH. It's the wrong program for them. They need the help that is going to get them to a productive and thriving life. And that's the goal for this program, is to help those people into the program that they need. They shouldn't be on AISH. They shouldn't be told you will never be able to work and we'll just support you forever. That doesn't really help mental health. And there's many other examples like that. So it's time. It's time for them to do that. And you know what, if they need to be on ADAP for 2 years, for 5 years, if it gets extended, they will go back onto AISH and they'll be there forever. If it is severely handicapped, it's permanent. AISH is permanent. And if conditions are not permanent, that's what ADAP is for. So they can earn up to $45,000 plus health benefits without any deductions.
Councillor Dyke-Slag, did you have more?
yeah, I was just going to follow
Sure.
up. Moving from AISH to FCSS, are you on AISH? Your
I just
question on
wanted
AISH?
repetition of that number that they're able to earn.
45,000
Plus
45,000.
benefits.
plus health benefits.
So moving on to FCSS really quickly, MLA Johnson. What more can we do as a municipality to advocate for this long-standing, stagnant lack of increase? Is there more that we can do? Like Lacombe, I think, is unique.
Yeah.
Because we have so many great volunteers, so many great contributors to our FCSS dollars. That's not the case in every municipality. So I'm not only speaking for Lacombe, because I know that we thrive because of those that give the contributions. We are thriving because of the workers, the volunteers, the funds, the in-kinds, but we are hardly sustaining that. So what can we do as a municipality to make sure that this gets heard in the next budget?
So I think FCSS, if I'm not mistaken, I should just look this up. I think it's just gone to Arts and Culture and Status of Women Ministry, actually. It is out of, if I'm correct on that. Keep lobbying the minister, which is Tanya Furr, and keep lobbying me, keep bugging me. I mean, that's my job, and that's your job to bug me. It's my job to get bugged, and to take that on and to the ministry. And for what it's worth, there's a lot of noise happening in Edmonton on behalf of FCSS for increases. I'm not the only MLA that's sounding the alarm on this, that there needs to be a change and there needs to be an increase. So it's happening in Edmonton on a bigger scale as well. And we'll see what happens coming up. Yeah, it's a good question.
Thank you.
Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Thank you for being here, MLA Johnson. I have a question about the continuing care grant, if you're able to answer. The Caris Village Seniors Housing Development was well suited for receiving that grant this year. They're shovel-ready development, but they were overlooked in this round of funding. So I'm wondering if there are plans to fund that in the next round of funding, if you're aware.
Well, I sure hope so, because I think 1 in 7 Albertans are seniors right now. By 2050, it's going to be 1 in 5. So we need to, in 20 years, we've got to do a lot of work to prepare for that. The Premier knows. She says now is the time we lay the foundation for that. Actually, just this afternoon had a tour of the Lacombe Lodge again, and it's my #1 priority. Actually, as an MLA for Lacombe Ponoka, is to get a new lodge for this area. It's one of the 4 oldest facilities in all of Alberta, and there's about 100 units in there. Let's go for at least 150. If we're planning for 1 in 5 in the next 20 years, Lacombe should be on the front lines of that. And I've had the conversation with the Premier. She actually said to me, "Oh, can I come and visit?" Well, when, I didn't even have to ask her. She put it on the line and said, "I'd like to come there." So I'll be seeing her this Friday on the float in the Ponoka Parade, and I've got her ear for 1 hour, and I'll make sure I'm putting the Lacombe Lodge in there again.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. With a 33% senior population, it's something
Yeah.
that's top of mind for us. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And it is the arts, culture, and status of women. It has changed over. It used to be ALSS, Assisted Living and Social Services. So lobby Minister Tanya Furr for FCSS.
CEO Gowdy.
I want to touch back on the point of the Premier coming to tour the lodge, because she actually did make that offer last year.
Yeah.
We extended the invitation a number of times, but she never made it.
I know.
So it'd be great to see her come and do a tour of one of the oldest buildings in Alberta that's serving seniors.
Yeah, I'm planning to ask her on Friday again.
We
I'm
definitely
hoping within the
appreciate,
next year.
yeah, we definitely appreciate some extra advocacy for our seniors lodge. It's probably one of our very top priorities for the community. Of course, it's one of those things that's in partnership with other communities as well, because it serves a larger population than just Lacombe. But appreciate anything that you're able to do for us there. I just want to return back to the AISH and ADAP. Are you aware that, now this may be not something that you have access to right this moment, but the numbers for our community, one of the major concerns that we had was being able to find employment for the amount of people that we're talking about moving from AISH to ADAP within our community. And so I don't know if you have those numbers, but if you don't, if you're able to, find out how many in the ministry's estimation are going to be affected in Lacombe, I'd be very curious to know what those numbers are, because I'm just concerned of the realistic expectation that we're going to be able to absorb that employment demand.
So are you looking for numbers of how many are on AISH right now?
That would be moving to ADAP, so that would be now requiring to find employment. That was one of the concerns, is that we don't want people to have to now leave the community because the employment opportunities are not present in a smaller community like ours. And so I just need those numbers, and that's not something I have access to. So
Yeah, I can look into, I don't know if they have those numbers by community, or if it's just 80,000 in all of Alberta, but I can ask.
I would greatly appreciate that, because I just, of a population of approximately 15,000, how many people are we talking about? How much employment are we going to be pressured to find for our community?
Yeah, it's a good question. Okay.
I don't have anything else. Is any councillor feel like they have another question that wasn't answered? Does not appear to be so. Thank you very much for coming and presenting the answers to those questions, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you very much for the invite. Thank you for all you do and for Lacombe.
Thank you. So our next presentation then is the 2025 audited financial statements. I'll invite the presenters to come up to the table. I think the chair is just off to the side. They're the second chair. So I know you've been here before, but I'll just ask you to introduce yourselves, and then the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mitchell Kennedy. I'm the senior manager on the audit this year, and beside me I have the preparer, Isabel. So we're going to break up our presentation twofold. She's going to go through the final report. If you guys have any questions as she goes through the final report, feel free to interrupt and we'll answer the questions the best that we can. After she goes through the final report, I'll then quickly run you guys through the financial statements. Same thing, any questions, feel free to interrupt. I'm gonna check to see if we can, oh, okay. This next slide back. So I'll pass the microphone to Isabel. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having us here. As Mitch said, we're going to start with the final report addressed to those charged with governance, and please let us know at any point if you have any questions. All right, so our materiality is based off of a formula, and this year we used approximately 5% of total expenditures to calculate our materiality base of $2.3 million. We also use something called performance materiality, which is used to drive our sampling methodology throughout the audit. And we use a term called clearly trivial, which is 5% of materiality. If we have anything that we come across under this clearly trivial threshold, we do not adjust for it or include it on the schedule of likely aggregate misstatements. But this is not to say that the dollar value is the only thing that determines whether or not we would make an adjustment. If we find something that will impact the users, we will consider the clearly trivial amounts as well. For the status of the audit, as of today, we are substantially completed. The audit is pending the signing of the management representation letter and council's approval of the financial statements. And we need to confirm if anyone has any knowledge of subsequent events that would affect the financial statements. Does anyone here have any knowledge of that? Perfect. I'm going to move on. This slide outlines the significant risks related to the audit. The first is the management override of controls. This is an inherent risk that affects municipalities when they have a smaller accounting team. It means that there are individuals that have the ability to override any other accountant within the organization. Even though this is a risk, it is mitigated with our mock testing, which is journal entry testing, where we look at the manual journal entries posted by those with super user access to ensure that those entries are true in nature. We also have our revenue risk, which is a presumed risk, and we need to ensure that it is recorded correctly and in the proper period. Offsite levies is similar, where we need to ensure it is recorded properly. This falls under the PS 3100 for restricted assets, and it needs to be recognized when the obligation is met. For part of our audit process is to review the internal controls. During the course of the audit, we did not identify any control deficiencies that are significant for us to discuss at this time. This slide is our SLAM, our schedule of likely aggregate misstatements, and we have 3 entries on here for this year. The first is for the valuation of your investments. City of Lacombe has the principal protected notes, which is the complicated investment. It is made up of 2 parts. There's the host contract, which is the principal portion that's initially invested. And then there's the gain on the investment, which is dictated based on equity indices. Since you are unable to separate the host contract from the equity derivative, the investment needs to be reported at market value. So that is what our adjustment is here, as it is currently being reported at cost. It has no material impact on the financial statement, so we're just highlighting it here for you today. The second one is a simple reclassifying adjustment, as there were credit balances in taxes receivable that are over that triviality threshold. So this is just to move it to the liability side. And then the third one is the entry we do every year to consolidate the Lacombe Public Library into the city.
Any questions on any of those entries?
Sorry, I can go back to that one. Oh, okay. And if we found anything during the course of our audit, like these items listed here, we would be required to communicate them, but we do not have any items, so we have nothing here to communicate. And this is just showing our audit process. It shows us circles because at any point in the audit, if we are uncovering any evidence that would affect something we'd previously done, we can cycle back and reassess our risks and move forward from there. We're currently in the completion stage and doing the final communication. And the rest of the slides is just some video marketing and different items we have in there. If anyone would like to review those. Just go.
There is one change coming in the next couple of years. It's called conceptual framework or section 1202. Right now, your financial statements fall under section 1201. They're revising it, and basically what they're going to do is they're going to change like the face of your balance sheet. They're going to change presentation items like your budget. So your financial statements will look a little bit different in the next couple of years. So was there any questions on that final report before I just jump into the financial statements? Okay. So right here's the independent auditors report. So this is effectively our deliverable to the municipality. So I will be going over the financial statements, even though we help prepare the financial statements. These financial statements are the cities, they're not ours. And so just before I kind of go into the meat of things, just to go through, we're providing a clean audit opinion on the financial statements, which means the financial statements are free from material misstatement, which goes back to that $2.3 million that we discussed earlier. Our objective it's to obtain assurance that these financial statements are true in nature. And I'm just going to jump to the balance sheet. Sorry, I thought we were on the presentation. You guys have the financial statements? It's okay.
Just for the public to know, they are attached in the agenda. They're just attached to a different item versus the presentation. They're actually under the agenda item request for decision. We're just finding them to pull up. It's page 67 of the agenda package for those of you that are following along.
If you want to go to the next page, the statement of financial position. I don't know if I can drive or not. Just right after the auditor's report.
Page 71.
Yeah, there you go. I'll try my best to navigate through this. Okay, so these financial statements are going to be a snapshot as at December 31st. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an analysis from current year to prior year and kind of highlight the big differences. If you guys have any questions on these, please interrupt me. Starting from the top to bottom, the cash change is changed by about $3 million. We'll go through that when we go through the statement of cash flow. Your short-term investments, you guys have about a $1 million gain on your investments from this year. Going further down, your accounts receivable is slightly up. It's just your general accounts receivable. So your financial asset position at the end of the year is 36.6 million, which is up from last year from the 31.8. Going further down to your liability section, your liabilities are up about $1.4 million from last year. And then you have your deferred revenue. So your deferred revenue is going to be made up of your offsite levies and your grants. So one of the big changes this year is you guys have about a $1.6 million grant related to the Elizabeth Lake stabilization. Your CB, your Canada Building Fund grant is up as well from last year. Those are the ones that are causing your major swings in the year. So your total liabilities are 32.5 to 36 million. So the liability side, you have to remember your deferred revenues. It's a liability, but it's not a financial liability. It's going to be effectively recognized through revenue at some point in time. The assumption is you're going to spend that money, therefore there is no obligation to pay it back unless you don't
use it.
spend the money. And then there's your net financial asset position line. So this line's pretty important because this is supposed to illustrate what you guys have for liquid cash available as a municipality. And so the net amount, you guys were in the negative last year, deficit of 700,000. Now you're in the positive about 575,000. Keep in mind, a significant portion of your liabilities is also your debt. Your debt is not immediate. It's something that you pay over a longer period of time. So there's give and take with that as well. And then there's your non-financial assets. This is making up the meat of your equity. It's your tangible capital assets, which is your 195,000. So you're going to have capital asset additions in the year that are making up for that change. There's also amortization, which will decrease it, but you can see your amortization later in the financial statements. So your ending accumulated surplus, which is effectively your equity, is $198 million at the end of the year. So it's up about $2.8 million from last year. So it's looking better this year. And then statement of operations, same thing. I kind of do an analytic approach with this as well, but I typically start with the budget and I compare budget to actual. And if there's any differences from budget to actual, then I'll then fall back on the prior year to see if there's any consistencies with those numbers as well. So just generally speaking, your total revenue is about 43, I should say operating revenue. Your total operating revenue is $43.8 million per your budget. Your actual is $46.4 million. So some of your big changes here is going to be, you can see your return on investments. You guys had budgeted about 545,000, but you actually had a return of about $1 million. And then there's your other revenue. Your other is just made up of other contributions, joint economic development, and donations. So those are causing the differences. And then looking at your expenses, your total expenses were about $45.9 million versus the 46.9. That difference is coming pretty significantly just from what was budgeted for amortization versus the actual amortization in the year. It's a non-cash item, but it's still an item that's causing the outlier there. And then there's what I call below the line. So below the line is your other items. These are usually capital in nature. So you guys had budgeted about $8.4 million in capital work. You actually incurred about $2.5 million in capital work. So what that means is your 2.5 million is what you had actually spent in development versus the forecasted amount that you had prior. And then there's the contributed assets. These are capital assets that were effectively given to the municipality of $810,000, which wasn't in the original budgeted amount. So your excess of revenue over expenses, your actual is $2.7 million. Any questions on that?
Councillor Span.
I had a couple questions, and maybe they're to be directed more towards administration, but there was 648,000 additional that went into general reserves. These funds were unrestricted. I'm assuming that there's two separate parts to the general reserves, because otherwise moving that 648,000 to the general reserves would make it restricted then. Is that correct?
CEO Gowdy.
No, so within a reserve, there would be a portion of that reserve that is restricted and a portion that is not restricted. So the portion that's just from an operating surplus that's not restricted. There is other money held there where it's for a specific purpose. It's been restricted to that purpose. I also just wanted to highlight here that Mr. Kennedy has pointed out $8.4 million of expected, or I'll call them approved expenditures, because you used the term planned expenditures, and the difference of nearly $6 million, I think, deserves some comment. And so the difference between an approval and planning to spend it, if you're looking at something like, say, the fire hall, well, you might have an approval to spend money there, and you would want that in place prior to putting shovels in the ground. You don't want to start the project and then start asking for approvals. So just because there was 8.4 sort of approved doesn't necessarily mean, wow, you planned to do $8 million of work and you only did 2 million. Sounds like you only did 25% of the work that you expected to do, but that isn't the case. These approvals pave the way for future spending. They don't necessarily reflect what the city genuinely intended to expend in capital purchases that year.
And to further expand on that, that kind of ties back to your deferred revenue actually increasing. So money was received in the year, which increased your cash balance and also increased your deferred revenue. So that falls back to 3410, which hits your stipulation criteria. If you don't spend that money, meaning you didn't incur those costs, that sits in deferred revenue. So that is to show kind of, yes, we have some funding and work to do. The work hasn't been incurred. Therefore, you don't see a portion of that revenue flowing through your income statement right now, if that makes sense.
It does to me, yes. Councillor Span, I believe you had more?
There was also an item about the lagoon water storage. The revenue from that was 963,000 versus a budget of 265. Just had a question on is this year an anomaly, or is this something that has been going on for the last few years?
I think that's probably best directed to administration. CEO Gowdy.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, through to Councillor Span. It has been roughly that for a couple of years, but we've also had years where there's been no revenue. It's entirely dependent on the energy development activities of Parallax Energy, the partner of the city. And so those do vary from year to year based on conditions, corporate goals, the price of oil, obviously. And so there's no guarantee by any means that it'll be consistent to this level or even to the 265 that was budgeted for. It could be as low as 100,000 is the minimum payment, all the way up to, we've seen it at times reach around that $1 million number.
Councillor Span, did you have anything else?
Yeah, and this is again for administration through mayor. On page 71, there's an increase in taxes receivable and accounts receivable. I'm just wondering if seeing that trend, if we were to see that trend continue, if that's indicative of residents struggling to pay taxes within the year that they're levied. Do you have any comments on that?
I can't provide a narrative of what it indicates, but I can say that they're higher than previous years. And so that's certainly a possibility that for whatever reason, people are incurring penalties that are pretty steep and not making the payments, which is resulting in a higher than previous year's accounts receivable. A lot of that has been collected since the beginning of the year, between the start of the year and now. but it's still higher than we've seen in previous years. Recent previous years. I haven't gone back to look like COVID or that time period.
Councillor Contenti, you had some questions?
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, to presenters. I think it might even be on the same thing, talking about our net municipal taxes on note 14. Are we going to be touching on that? I did read through it before, but it's like there's a long list of stuff there. So where our actual net is lower than what was, no, we were budgeted, sorry, I might be looking at this wrong. We were budgeted 19,406 and we actually took in 19,438. So is that just an increase from taxes that we received that we may not have budgeted for? Is that what that's telling us there?
This is
Be the top-
page
be
nine,
the top
page
line.
91 on the agenda,
Note 14 there, top line.
note 14. No,
So
no.
sorry, I'm looking at note 14
Note-
taxation.
Note 14 itself is page 91.
Are you referring to the budgeted 19.4 net versus?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I can't speak to the change on budget. Sorry, I guess, can you clarify your question?
I think I'm just looking at it maybe the wrong way. We budgeted 19,406 and we actually collected 19,438. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you're pretty close to what you had budgeted in your net municipal taxes.
Thank you.
Okay, if you want to continue.
Yeah, if I can go to the statement of cash flow, please, which is next couple of pages. So this is effectively your movement in cash in the year. Really, it's just heavily formula driven. So your operating transactions is literally the surplus that was on your statement of operations. And then there's your non-cash items, things that are running through your income statement that aren't cash related. So things like your contributed assets, which no cash transactions because they're given to the municipality. Then there's amortization. At some point in the past, you would have paid cash to get capital assets. This is the depreciation of those capital assets. And then going further down, the change in your non-cash operating balances. Those are quite literally the differences in your balance sheet. So if you look at your taxes receivable current year to prior year, that's just the difference all the way down. And then if you scroll a little bit further down, you guys bought about $9.5 million in capital assets in the year. Change of investments is about 900,000. A lot of that's through your return on investments. And then you guys paid about $1.1 million in long-term debt this year. So your cash position's up from the 5.3 to 8.4. Then I'm gonna talk briefly about the equity note. So if you can go to sorry, just trying to find it here. It's note 12. So I just have the base financial statements. I don't have. If you just keep scrolling down to note 12.
Yeah, it's note 12. So you're at note 2. Right there.
Yeah. So your equity as a municipality is called accumulated surplus. So your accumulated surplus is broken up effectively into 3 major categories. There's the equity of your tangible capital assets, which is just taking your capital assets, subtracting off your long-term debt and your asset retirement obligation. And that's effectively the book value of just your tangible capital assets. Then there's your reserves. So you got about $16 million in reserves. This is money the municipality has effectively set aside for future spending. And then there's something called your unrestricted surplus. So this is just the fallout or the remaining portion of your accumulated surplus that theoretically you could move this unrestricted surplus to your reserves or whatever. So the thing to keep in mind is your reserve balance should be, I always like to compare it to your net financial asset position. So currently your net financial asset position, if you have your deferred revenue and you have your long-term debt in there. Your long-term debt is something that's over 20 years typically. So it's going to be a longer period of time. So these reserves are expected projects that are going to be happening at some point in time. So it's normal to have an unrestricted reserve balance that is sitting at this level. It's just how you guys manage the spending. So currently your reserves are funded if you take out of your long-term debt, but just something municipalities typically monitor is the value of your net financial assets versus what's currently sitting in future spending. So you currently have about $16 million sitting in municipal reserves right now. Is there any questions on that? There is one more note that I wanted to go through, and that's just your debt limit note, which is note 13, next page. So under the MGA, municipalities have debt limits. And so some municipalities will have different debt limits that get special approval through municipal affairs. But on average, most municipalities have this debt limit of 1.5 times your total operating revenue. So what your total debt limit means is this is the maximum amount of debt under the MGA that a municipality can have. And so right now your cap is about $69.6 million. Right now you have $20.5 million in debt, which theoretically gives you $49.1 million left in room that the municipality could theoretically take out. The city also has their own internal debt limit. So using your own internal debt limit, your debt limit is $34.8 million. So this is a limit set out specifically by the city, which leaves you with room of 14.3. And then there's your debt servicing limit. So your debt servicing limit is also formula driven. It's multiplied by 20.25 against your total operating revenue. And that's the maximum amount of debt that you can service in a year. So that cap is $11.6 million. Right now you're servicing about $1.8 million.
CEO Gowdy, sorry.
Okay, I do want to highlight, those are the MGA debt limits. The city has its own self-imposed debt limits that are lower than that.
Yeah.
75% of the MGA.
Yeah.
But I always also like to point out, there's kind of the legal limits of your debt. There is a political reality that to get to the debt servicing limit, for example, of $11.8 million versus 1.8 would require $10 million of new revenue for the municipality somewhere.
Yeah.
Essentially, like nearly doubling your tax base or 50% more of your tax. So unless you want to increase taxes by 50%, it's not pragmatically an option to go to the debt.
If you have a statement of operation of $2.7 million, you don't want to throw a lot of that at your debt. You potentially want to use it for future spending on something else, like your reserve balances, to make sure they're funded for. Yeah, you could do it for a whole bunch of different reasons. Yeah, you're correct.
Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs, and I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but there's note 8 had to do with debt. Our long-term debt, and there was just a note on there saying that on the loans that we have, it bears interest at rates ranging from 2.289 to 5.210 per annum before the provincial subsidy. And I just wanted some clarification on what is that provincial subsidy? Does that lower the effective interest rate that we pay?
Yeah, so if you get a provincial subsidy, like municipalities get better rates than most people, and it's because they're effectively subsidized to the ratepayers. So all your loans are effectively through Alberta Capital Finance Authority. So these are the principal balances that are currently remaining that you would have on those debts, if that makes sense.
I'm talking specifically about that comment where it says before the provincial subsidy. So it shows at the bottom the interest rates that we're paying on our long-term debt. And it says 2.289 to 5.210 per annum. It's just at the bottom there. That's the interest rate we pay before the provincial subsidy. So I'm just curious, what is that provincial subsidy?
So that's the rate after the subsidy.
What is that number?
We aren't, so when we look at it, we get the loan confirmations from the Alberta Finance Authority. We don't know what the original subsidized amount was. So this is the after value of it.
The 2.289 is after the provincial subsidy?
Yeah, this is on the confirmation from the province. These are the rates that are currently being paid by the municipality.
Okay.
CEO Gowdy, did you have something to add?
Well, I guess to Councillor Span's point, it shouldn't say before provincial subsidy. It should say
Oh.
including provincial subsidy or something on those lines, right?
I see. I
These are the
apologize.
true rates.
Yeah.
That are being paid.
You're correct.
Okay. CEO Gowdy?
Sorry, and I'm sure I've seen this note many times and never made the comment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Span. There is no provincial subsidy, really. The term subsidy is a misnomer. It's not like they're using some of their money to offset the rates of municipalities.
Correct.
They're just giving a slightly lower rate because that's what they get from the Bank of
Correct.
Canada. They're not doing
Yeah.
us a favor. They're just not marking it up.
There's no-
like they do sometimes.
There's no
and
income
have.
statement line item that says this is the subsidized portion. Yes, correct.
And there have been times in recent years where they actually charged higher rates than banks. And we're making money off municipalities through financing.
Yeah. So would you like that line? Yeah, yeah,
That's the true rates.
yeah, sure. Okay.
Looks like we can carry on.
That was the last note that I had, but I'm more than happy to talk about any other note that you guys want to go over.
Did we have any further questions for this presentation? Keep in mind, this is the presentation, not the RFD right at this moment. Councillor Span?
I had a note for, I believe it was note 15, government transfers. Seemed like there was a fairly substantial discrepancy for transportation services, where the budget was 5.3 and the actual for 2025 was 2.1. Can I get an explanation on that?
CEO Gowdy?
So I expect that that's part of the deferred revenue that is related to purchasing a fire truck. Guessing, is that?
And potentially the Elizabeth Lake or Elizabeth. Yeah, the Elizabeth Lake stabilization.
Should that be transportation services though? I thought that'd be like an environmental thing. I think that it's likely that we had expected to get a significant portion of the Canadian, the CCBF, what used to be called gas tax and is now Building Canada Strong Fund for the fire truck, which was about $2 million. Actually, we have two of them, but they haven't been delivered. And so we haven't actually received those government transfers yet because they don't give you the money until you've actually incurred the bill. But we will double check that and then send a clarification to council just to close the loop there.
Through
Councillor
Mayor
Span, yep.
to administration, would that, would those amounts just be carried over then to the 2026 budget? Unless the fire truck isn't delivered in 2026 as well? Or have we accounted for that in our 2026 budget?
Yes, the approval would be there. It would just be a matter of it showing as deferred reserve rather than a completed government transfer. So there wouldn't be like a new approval required. Future.
Any further questions for our presenters? Does not appear to be so. Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So that does then move us along in our agenda to requests for decision. First item up is 6.1, 2025 audited financial statements. Senior Manager Gordon will lead us on this item.
Good evening, Mayor Hibbs and Council. It's a pleasure to be presenting here this evening. I'm here to request Council's approval of the 2025 audited financial statements covering the period of January 1st to December 31st and present the year-end variance report. However, I would first like to extend a huge thank you to our auditors for all of their work. They moved our audit, as you know, to a different period and worked around our schedule. So we really appreciate that. Per my review, the city of Lacombe is in a great financial health, which we'll explain later in detail. So the auditors went over most of the information, so I'm just going to go over just a smaller portion of the financial statements. And mainly it's going to be note 12. So we finished the year within 1.4 of our budget target and achieved an operating surplus of 648,000. It's great to see actuals align so well with budgeted numbers and shows a great financial management of the city. This year's surplus was transferred to the general capital reserve per policy. Our net income from the statement of operation was almost 2.8 million, which is different from our surplus that I just mentioned. One common misconception is that a municipality reporting net income of several $1 million, we must be collecting more taxes than necessary. However, under public sector accounting rules, net income includes both operating revenue and capital revenue, such as grants received from infrastructure projects. As a result, net income is not the same as our operating surplus, as we budget these items separately, but they are combined in our financial reporting. One of my favorite notes, which the auditors already went over, is note 12, and that's the change of accumulated surplus. This is found on page 89 of your agenda package. It helps make the numbers easier to understand by showing how the year's net income is distributed between operating, capital, and reserves. In my view, it provides a better picture of how the city is performing financially than looking at net income alone or even just operating surplus. I'm going to quickly go over all three as I believe this is key to understanding the overall health of our organization. First, I'm going to start with the capital section, the column titled Equity and Tangible Capital Assets. This represents the city's investment into infrastructure such as roads, buildings, utilities, and parks and equipment. Generally, you want this number to remain stable or ideally increase over time. One of the trends you do not want to see is a decline in your equity and tangible capital asset. A declining balance can indicate that infrastructure is deteriorating faster than it is being replaced. Over time, this can lead to an increased maintenance cost, reduce service level, and larger infrastructure funding challenges. For this reason, a growing and stable equity and tangible assets balance is often considered a significant sign of financial healthy municipality that is investing in its future. In 2025, equity and tangible assets increased by 2.8 million, which is very positive. This increase demonstrates that council is committed to invest in the city's long-term sustainability and service delivery. It suggests that we are maintaining and improving our infrastructure rather than allowing it to age without replacement. The middle bucket is our reserves, which is primarily made up of capital funds that have been set aside to help pay for future capital projects. It can be viewed as a measure of the city's preparedness for future infrastructure needs and long-term financial planning. The city's reserve balance remains relatively consistent compared to prior year, which is a positive sign. It indicates the city has maintained its financial capacity to fund future projects while continue to meet its current needs. However, it's important to note the reserve balance will naturally fluctuate from year to year as funds are accumulated for future projects and then spent when those projects move forward. These changes are driven by community needs, council priorities, and long-term planning objectives. Our unrestricted funds, and if you look at the balance kind of at the bottom, you guys might want to think that is like your working capital, like a every business needs some cash to be able to function. And so if this was zero, it would mean that you would be dipping into your reserves to be funding your payables and things like that. And it also represents our operating budget. If we had not moved the surplus over to reserves, this number would have been equal to our operating surplus plus a small amount related to asset retirement obligations. If you look at the amount, the 21,498, it is basically your accretion expense, which is that 21,497, which is related to asset retirement obligations. So it's just because of some of the accounting rules, it kind of throws that off a little bit, but that's generally where you would see your operating surpluses in this bucket. In summary, the city is in great financial health and indicates financial sustainability and well-managed organization by council. I did, however, and this is to Councillor Span, notice that one item in the financial statements that internally we will be monitoring, and that is the increase in tax receivables from where it generally sits. I'm currently not concerned, but it is something that will need to be watched. I compared us to a few other municipalities and found out we're not an outliner. I have a theory, I don't know if it's fact, but a lot of mortgage companies and some of the banks have stopped including this last year, the payment of your taxes within the mortgage payment. And I think it's going to take a while for people to kind of adjust to that new norm. They're just kind of used to probably not thinking about that because their mortgage company pays for it. And because I saw this trend, not in all municipalities, but when I was looking at several, it seemed like the majority of them had quite a large increase as well. So it's just a theory. We're going to be doing some stuff internally to try and get that number down. It has already come down quite a bit, but we'll do some more work to get it down further. I'll now go on to the Q4 accumulated results showing our six.
Sorry, just one quick question, if I may.
Yes.
Through Mayor Hibbs to administration. On that note, do we have any information on whether we've seen a significant increase in the use of the TIPS program?
I didn't ask. I could find out for you to see if we have or not. That's one thing I didn't look. I do know the number of people that are delinquent has increased, but I haven't found out to see the uptick.
I'm just thinking that there may be some correlation between mortgages or banks stop collecting, but now moving over to the TIPS program.
Yeah, you would hope that there would be, but I'll have to find out for sure.
Thank you.
So for Q4 recording, we're showing our surplus of 648,000. Revenue as a whole was 2.6 million higher, and our expenses were approximately 2 million higher. In the revenue side, 511,000 was the increase in user fees, made up primarily of higher utility revenue, but we also saw an increase in the economic development in parks. The higher utility revenue is offset with higher expenses on the expense side as well. 963K in rental revenue. This is primarily the which was spoken to previously about the water storage and not always having that funding guaranteed. So we budgeted 265K versus the revenue of 1.2 million. 575K was on, we received more on interest and penalties. And that was due to our investments through CIBC. 586K of other sources of revenue made up of a wide variety of items, including 213 of like rental other sources of revenue, 133K of provincial grants, and 220K in additional grants that was offset by additional expenses, and 77,000 in offsite levies. Expenses were 2 million higher than budgeted. The main cause of the 2 million increase related to transfers to reserves, which is a good thing. 963 was transferred to the general capital reserve for water storage. 234K of interest allocation to reserves per our policy. 247 was utility operating reserves, and 248 was transferred to fleet reserves, and this was from the sale of different equipment at auction, and then our 77,000 of our offsite revenue. Thank you for your time. Administration is here to support council's deliberation.
Councillor Contenti.
Thank you for that presentation. Just a quick question through Mayor Hibbs. Our surplus, you said, was 2.7 million. We had a few staffing positions that were not filled throughout the year. Do you have a number or percentage of what dollar figure or percentage of that 2.7 would be staffing if we were full staffed? How much would that have been?
Yeah, the 2.7 is the operating and capital combined. Just the operating was 648. But if you go and you look in your appendices, you can, I believe it's appendix 1 or A or B. Let me just, log in.
Yeah, just wondering because we can't depend on surpluses by not filling positions. So I'm just wondering where we are with that.
CEO Gowdy, did you have something to add?
Yeah, so overall, the city had a favorable wage number of about $470,000, about 3% under the budget. Now, I do want to highlight, though, that that's partially offset by an increase in other professional services of nearly 200,000. So you're saving 470, but you're spending 200 covering the shortfalls of staff and stuff. So 2.94 is actually a little bit higher under budget than I would like to see. I think, 1%, 1.5% is kind of where you'd hope to be, but you don't have much direct control over it. But to your question, 470,000 was related to wages.
Thank you.
Any other additional questions? There are two motions affiliated with this item. One is to accept the audited financial statements.
Are we able to change it as like amended for the note for 8? For note 8, is that okay?
That would probably be wise to recognize that conversation. Sure. Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that council approve the 2025 audited financial statements as amended.
I'll just give IT a minute here to make the adjustment. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is unanimous. We have a second motion that's affiliated with this item in regards to setting the budget workshop days. If someone's prepared to make that motion. Councillor Span.
I just had one comment on the budget workshop days, and it may play into the dates a little bit, but I'd like to see us get the budget binders 3 weeks prior to us going through the budget workshops. And I'm wondering if that's possible through administration.
Just before you do answer that question, a week is typically how much time we've had in the past for that. Would that be historically correct?
Yeah, so typically we would give them to council at the first meeting in October, which I believe is the 12th, is when you would get them. So here you would have them from the 12th to whatever date you were to select. You might be more preferable then for an option of the 20th, 29th, which would give you 2 weeks, 2 and a bit. We're looking to get them 3 weeks in advance. We would struggle to push it up from the 12th. Honestly, that just with the time, I know the timelines of when you're going to receive presentations from the community groups and they are scheduled to present. All those dates have been communicated to our managers and directors, and so it would be really challenging to get it before the 12th. You could look at pushing the workshop later in the year, to November. Of course, eventually you start to risk pushing into the Christmas season, and nobody wants to hold a budget approval meeting on December 21st. It's possible, but my recommendation would be to split the difference, go for the 28th, 29th, and 30th this year. See if 2.5 weeks was enough, or 2 and a bit. And then if not, then you communicate that back to us. And then the next year, we'll try and push all the dates up, would be my recommendation, but we'll take your direction.
Councillor Dyksleg.
I don't think we have a meeting on the 12th. I think it's the 5th. The 12th is Thanksgiving of next year, if I'm correct on that calendar. So the committee of the whole is the 5th. Am I right that we don't have a meeting on the 12th?
Is it October 13th?
October 13th, yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it just moves to the Tuesday. Yeah, there it is, sitting there on the Tuesday.
mistake,
Perfect.
sorry.
So it would be the 13th. We would get that. Perfect.
Councillor Span, did you have more?
Yeah, then I would move that we schedule our budget workshops for the 28th, 29th, and 30th of October.
Okay. So what you're proposing is the motion as presented here, other than the dates have been changed. So it would be that council schedules the 2027 budget workshops for October 28, 29, 30th,
Correct.
or rather it'd be 28th, 29th as full day meetings with October 30th tentatively being held for an additional budget workshop only if required, which matches what we have done in the past, traditionally 2 days with always the possibility of a third if necessary. Is that clear? This is a date that's relatively recent. I think that has been given out, so it's not like this has been in our calendar for ages. Any further comment? Are we ready to vote on that question? I don't see anything further comment, so I'm assuming that works for administration.
It will.
CEO Gowdy, it will. Okay, very good. Glad to hear it. All right, I think, let me just see if are we good to go with that motion? All right, I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is not passed unanimously. That is a vote of 5-1 with Councillor Contenti in opposition. Our next item of business is 6.2, bylaw 365.2, records bylaw amendment for second and third reading. And is that Director Piché that will be speaking to that? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Good evening, Council. Before Council this evening is an amendment to the records management bylaw. This amendment is being proposed to accommodate the legislative changes to the Access to Information Act and the Protection of Privacy Act. The changes to the bylaw that are being proposed reflect current best practices in information management and align with the City of Lacomb's bylaw with updated provincial public sector privacy legislation. The bylaw amendment includes an updated preamble, updated definitions, the CAO's responsibilities regarding the ATIA and the POPA legislation. They remove clauses that are not relevant anymore, and verification of what is included in the term of records, as well as who is responsible when an outside agency has control of a city record. If Council chooses not to consider amending this bylaw, then references to outdated legislation may cause confusion to the public. And at this time, administration is looking for second and third reading this evening. And just a reminder to Council, for a unanimous vote is required to pass for third reading to be considered. Administration is here to support you in your deliberations. Thank you.
Any questions on this item? Councillor Dykslæg.
I'm prepared to move that council give second reading to bylaw 365.2 as presented.
Very good. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. Second and third is being asked at this meeting. To do third reading, that does require a special motion to allow us to consider that. If I have someone that's prepared to make that motion. Councillor Span.
I move that council resolve to consider the third reading of bylaw 365.2 at the same meeting as second reading.
See no lights. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that has passed unanimously. That allows us to go to third reading. If someone's prepared to do third reading. Councillor Proud.
I move that council give third reading to bylaw 365.2 as presented.
Go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is also passed unanimously. That has passed three readings. Our next item is bylaw 425.1, second and third reading for the CAO bylaw amendment. This is Director Piché again. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. So before council this evening is an amendment to the CAO bylaw. Bylaw 425.1, the CAO bylaw amendment, is being updated for two reasons. First, of course, is the ATIA and POPA legislation and the authorization of the position title to be interchangeable between the CAO and city manager. The amendment changes the reference of the CAO being the head of the public body from the old Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act to the new Access to Information Act and the new Protection of Privacy Act. The second change to this bylaw is to add the term city manager as an interchangeable term to CAO. The city manager title has become more colloquial and is understood to be a better description of the position, as many people outside of municipal organizations do not understand what the acronym CAO is. This amendment is to authorize the position title to be interchangeable between CAO or Chief Administrative Officer and City Manager. At this time, administration is looking for second and third reading. And again, just a reminder, a unanimous vote is required to pass for third reading to be considered. Thank you so much.
Do we have any questions on this item? Councillor Span.
Are there other municipalities that have made this adjustment to be interchangeable with city manager?
I understand that there is. I can't tell you exactly which ones, but it has been made available to me that it has been changed.
Councillor
Thank
Contenti.
you, Mayor. It's much along the same thing. So who decides what to use? Is it just interchangeable? Are we changing all our forms? Is it already decided one way or the other on how?
No, it's just being
See.
used as an interchangeable title, just for when the public is being referred to the city manager or versus a CAO, they can use either or.
Okay, just my opinion, it was like, let's pick one and say, this is how we're going to address the city manager or the CAO in all aspects, rather than sometimes we're using this one, sometimes we're using this. I think that's more confusing to the public than just saying our name now chosen is city manager, for instance.
CEO Gowdy.
So the intent would be to use city manager on basically everything, except there are certain requirements where you have to have a named CAO. So for like grant applications or sorry, agreements, things like that. So where that particular requirement is stated legislatively, then it will still apply to your CAO, but publicly it would always be city manager at that point.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. I will admit that I have started to use more the city manager when I'm explaining the role to the public, because it is exactly that. It's far more understandable as to what that position is rather than CAO. It doesn't really make sense otherwise. Do we have anybody prepared to make that motion? The recommended motion. Councillor Contenti.
Yes, I move that council give second reading to bylaw 425.1 as presented.
I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. Seeking another motion to allow us to have third reading, Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that council resolve to consider the third reading of bylaw 425.1 at the same meeting as second reading.
And again, this has to be unanimous in order for us to proceed. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously, which does allow us to have third reading if someone's prepared to make it. Councillor Proud.
And I move that council give third reading to bylaw 425.1 as presented.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. Just a further follow-up to that, should I now be referring to you as City Manager Gowdy? I'm not sure that will roll off the tongue quite as easily in this setting.
I hadn't thought that far, to be totally honest with you. We talked about ordering a new nameplate and I said no, because it's just a waste of money. But can we get back to you on that and we'll have a decision
Okay,
for you for next meeting?
if you do decide to change, I will do my best, but 8 years of one title is very hard to change.
Sure.
All right, so that moves us then to our next item under request for decision 6.4, 2026 snow clearing policy annual review. And we have Director Halderson leading us through that item.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Good evening, Mayor Hibbs and Council. I'm pleased to present the annual review of our snow clearing policy and also our recreational use of storm pond policy for the upcoming season. This happens annually. It gives council an opportunity to make any changes for the upcoming year rather than having a change mid-season, which complicates our operations. Tonight, we're going to review the past winter stats, operational challenges, and approve the policy updates. This past winter, we broke a multi-year low snowfall cycle in a dramatic way. We had an unprecedented volume of snow, which kept coming and into April. And I was surprised it didn't happen in May, but we had 183 centimeters of snow. Put that in perspective, it's 154% increase over the last year and more than doubled our 5-year average. Despite the relentless volume of snow, our crews maintained council expected service levels except for priority 2 roads, which we'll speak to later. Our roads crew sanded for 71 days, cleared snow and ice for 49 days this past winter. Priority 1 and 2 networks were cleared frequently over the 26 operational days. Residential priority 3A and 3B clearing was started Christmas Eve and went through early March. Excuse me. To support the core operations, safety and downtown roads were cleared 9 times, and citywide residential lanes were cleared once for solid waste trucks. Our parks team successfully cleared paved walkways, trails, school paths, requiring some overtime and weekend call-ins. Our parks team was also successfully managed 3 outdoor skating surfaces, snow clearing, ice thickness monitoring, and flooding Granite Lake and Royal Oak up to 3 times a week and at least once before weekends, as well as our outdoor rink just north of the arena. Our bylaw enforcement supported our operations, working with 135 property owners to move their vehicles without fines. However, when the vehicles were not able to be moved, 59 tickets were issued and 17 vehicles were towed. Also, 70 tickets were issued for residents for failing to clear sidewalks, matching the freeze-thaw patterns, which drew public scrutiny. Based on the season's data, administration's recommending minor but impactful policy changes. The amendment to priority 1 or 2 roads targeting from 96 hours to 120 hours, which our rationale behind that shows over the past 4 seasons, we established an average of 120 hours to clear those roads. This was due to clearing both 1 and 2 roads simultaneously. So this target is not changing, a reduction in effort, but aligning with our policy timeline with smart, efficient operational reality. The second one is adding Iron Wolf Storm Pond to our recreational storm pond policy. We heard back from the public, residents wanted more outdoor recreation for youth, so this is another option for them. However, with the warm winters and unpredictable freeze-thaw cycles, managing storm ponds carries a risk. To mitigate this, we continue to use low ground pressure contracted equipment to clear the ice initially, and we only open and maintain these storm ponds when conditions are safe for the public and staff. Our financial overview, our third-party clearing costs came in at $137,000, well below our $200,000 budget. Our current status for this year, we have approved budget of $180,000. As of June 1st, we spent just under $121,000, which covered 2 rounds of residential clearing. That's priority 3. Looking ahead, we have about $59,000 for quarter 4 for 2026. So if the winter comes in heavily, or if we have to do extra snow plowing, we'll have to come back for if we can't meet the budget. But any service level changes tonight, we'll evaluate the budget implications and bring back for 2027 budget deliberations. These recommendations ensure sustainability service levels, maintain sustainable infrastructure, and support community safety and healthy, active community. So administration recommends the council direct administration to make recommended amendments to the snow and ice clearing policy 32/211.01 2026 PO for the 2026-2027 winter season, and council rescind the previous policy, and council directs administration to make recommended amendments to the recreational use of storm ponds policy of 75/741.01 2026 PO for the 2026-2027 winter season, and rescind the previous policy from 2020. Thank you, and I'm happy to help council with their deliberations.
Any questions on this item? Councillor Span.
Yeah, thank you, Director Alderson. I loved going through this. It was kind of eye-opening to see the amount of snow that we got over the past winter, and I think that clarified to me some of the feedback we were getting, why, at least it seemed to me, why we were getting more questions on social media or more emails about it than I've normally seen. I had a couple questions about the Iron Wolf Storm Pond. Has that ever been a maintained skating surface?
Through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Span, no, it hasn't. We just checked the thickness, and the community around Iron Wolf did the maintenance on it.
Just to follow up on that, do you know what the approximate expected additional cost of maintaining another rink would be?
Between $5,000 to $6,000 extra on that one.
Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Thanks for the presentation, Director Halderson. I had a lot of feedback from the community about the sidewalk inspection signs throughout neighborhoods. That was awesome, really clear communication, I think really helpful. Were they put up in every neighborhood prior to snow clearing?
That's a good question. Would you like? Yeah.
Director Piche.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, to Councillor Goings. So the individual sidewalk inspection signs are done by enforcement services. And whenever they're going to be going out into certain areas, they are put up for about 3 to 4 days prior. And then we try to do it on a Wednesday or a Thursday so that people have the time through the weekend to do it. And then the sidewalks are inspected the following week on the Monday or Tuesday.
Excellent, thank you.
Just to add to that, though, that won't eliminate the possibility that somebody could get a random enforcement on them especially if they've been called in for an issue. So they may fall outside of the area that's been signed, and next thing they know, they've got enforcement on their doorstep, but that likely is in response to a complaint that was made. So yeah, it's the signs are up for when there's going to be a targeted focus on an area. That's right. Councillor Contenti.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Director Halverson. So the only policy amendment that I can see is that you're recommending that we do the stormwater ponds at Iron Wolf and additional maintained outdoor skating surface. Is that just one recommendation there? That's
Director Halderson?
Yes, through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Contenti. Yes, that's correct. Just the stormwater pond, and then there was some minor changes to the ice thickness, which is included in that.
CEO Gowdy.
Okay, I think there's a missing piece though. Yes, to the recreational storm pond, that is the only amendment, but the proposed amendment to the snow clearing policy includes a rather significant one where we're proposing to reduce the stated clearing time for priority two roads from 96 hours to 120 hours. That is not an actual reduction in service, because we've been tracking that for the last 4 years, we've been kind of hitting about 120 hours. And part of that is because of trying to do, when equipment is in one area doing priority 1 roads, we try to just do the priority 2 roads at the same time. And so I just don't want to miss that there is a change to the snow clearing policy that's also recommended here. But they are two separate policy amendments.
Councillor Dyke-Slyke.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Similar comment to Councillor Span, sorry.
Thank you.
You're not spam at all.
Not the same person.
My head is a little bit congested. Thank you though for this report. What I really find interesting in this report is the clarity it provided. In some of the days were under my breath, I may have said, geez, those roads haven't gotten attended to as quite as fast as I expected. Because in the city of Lacombe, we have a standard, and I think it's a gold standard of maintenance on our roads. And when we look at taxes and those sorts of things, the citizens of Lacombe, if you talk or drive in Red Deer, I hate to name the municipalities around us, but there are certain municipalities very near us that are very difficult to travel down in the winter. So kudos to the entire team and our snow clearing policies that make Lacombe a relatively safe place to drive, especially with this accumulation. I can hardly wait to get home to tell my husband these totals this year. And if I'm not impressed by it, why wouldn't the citizens, all citizens of Lacombe, I wish everybody was online. That's unprecedented, 154% increase in snowfall. And we managed it very well. So compliments to the team, but I think I'm ready to shout this out to a few other people. So thank you very much.
Councillor Span. I said Span.
Just a comment about the street priorities. With the fire hall going on Woodland Drive, are we looking into increasing this from a priority 2 to a priority 1 at some point?
Director Halderson.
Mayor Hibbs through Councillor Span, yes, that would be a change in priority for sure.
Councillor Contenti.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Director Allison. So I just want to be 100% clear now that increasing that to 120 hours from 96 is not going to reduce service or anything like that. It's just you're kind of doing things together, so you're saving some time there. Like, what's the main reason for that increase?
It's to reflect reality.
Reflect reality.
Yeah, that's what it has. We've been missing the mark is what I'm heard from administration, that our goal is the 96 and that we have not been making that. It's been 120. So they're asking us to change the policy to reflect actuals. CEO Gowdy.
Yeah, Mayor Hibbs has been here for a number of years. So we did raise this starting 4 years ago. We said, hey, this year we struggled to make the 96. And then we said, but it's just 1 year. Let's monitor and see where we're at. And then we even had a few kind of like low snow years. We still struggled to meet it. And so every year, we bring this report back every year to highlight where there's challenges, where we think there needs to be changes, and really to try and have all policy changes be considered holistically at one time, not when you're in the midst of a snow clearing season, trying to also amend policy and change things in the field. That's very disruptive and hard to implement. So this way we try to raise it once per year to council of like where we're seeing challenges or not.
Thank you. Just follow up. So where did the 96 come from? Like, was that a target just that's what we used to do, or that where did that come from?
CEO Gowdy.
Yeah, it was just a historical 4-day target for those priority 2 roads. But what we've seen is we also have started looking at almost like subsets of the priority 2s. So there's as the city's grown, there's such a range that having just the 3 categories gets challenging. And so we do prioritize some, what we would call internally 2A roads that are like, they're not quite arterial roads, but they carry a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people traveling them. And so when we're doing those at the same time as we're doing the priority 1s, it does make it slower to get that first round done. And then by the time we move to the kind of the 2Bs, we're not getting it done in 96 hours.
Okay, thank you. My whole question is like, I know how slippage works. So it's 120 this year and well, we didn't quite make 120. So next year, let's try 130. And so I just want to be cognizant of that. Like I'd sooner have a good service if it costs us more money for this than we can save elsewhere. Or we had a good surplus, we can use some of that. I just don't want continuing slippage.
Councillor Dykeslag.
Councillor Contenti, I totally agree with you. When a bar is changed and expectation levels changed, what do we aim to meet? I actually don't mind proposing a range that we go from, 100 to 120 hours and have a range that we're trying to hit in between so that we've got a, ideal and also a realistic, but I could manage 120, but I don't like changing a standard of care that our citizens are used to and then have slippage, as you mentioned. So I think realistically, we have to look at the data, but at the same time, why wouldn't we still have a high bar of expectation?
CEO Gowdy.
Sorry, one of my colleagues reminded me that 4 years ago, we also stopped wind rowing snow and started hauling it all away. And so the 96 hours was set in a context where the city would often just push the snow to the side and move on. Now we are hauling all of that away. And so sorry, thanks for the reminder. That is a really valid reason why we start, not slip, why it started taking longer when that policy change was made.
Thank you for that clarification. I was actually going to ask about how that correlated together because that is a considerable service delivery change. That again, going back to what the public gets for services in this community, that is a bit of a Cadillac service, the snow removal off of streets, more than just the arterials. So that is worth highlighting. If someone's prepared potentially to make that motion. Any of them? Councillor Span.
I will make the motion that council direct administration to make the recommended amendments to the snow clearing policy 32-211.01 2026 PO for the 2026-2027 winter season.
Very good. No further lights. Go ahead and call the question. Please vote. That's 5 in favor with 1 against. That would be Councillor Contenti. So with the adoption of a new policy, that means we need to rescind the old. If I have somebody prepared to make that motion, Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that council rescind snow clearing policy 32/211.01 2025 PO.
Very good. Go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed by a vote of 5-1, again with Councillor Contenti voting against. Councillor Span, are you willing to make that next motion?
Yeah, I will move that council directs administration to make the recommended amendments to recreational use of stormwater ponds 75-741-0.01 2026 PO for the 2026-27 winter season.
Very good. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. That is passed unanimously. If I have someone that's willing to take the rescind, there we go. Yeah, Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that council rescind recreational use of stormwater ponds policy 75/741.01 2020 PO.
I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. That takes us to the end of that request for decision. Now prepared to move along to 6.5, Lacombe Regional Airport request for capital funding. And I have Director Hackett for this item.
Thank you very much, Mayor Hibbs. Good evening, Mayor Hibbs and members of council. Tonight I am presenting a request for consideration of funds for the Lacombe Regional Airport to cover immediate paving repairs at the taxiway. I'm joined by the very patient Mr. John Fromm, president of the Flying Club. The city of Lacombe has been informed by Mr. Fromm of a failure of a portion of the pavement at the south end of the east taxiway and the emergent need for paving to rebuild that taxiway area. And there are a couple of photos on the council agenda showing the situation there. 3 quotes have been received by the Flying Club to complete the work, and they range, there's a bit of a range from 89,000 to approximately 45,000. So tonight a request for $25,000 in funding from the City of Lacombe's capital reserve is being presented by the Flying Club to proceed with the work this year. Just in terms of background, the City of Lacombe owns the airport land, but there is a long-term lease and operating agreement in place with the Lacombe Flying Club to manage, maintain, and operate the airport. And a shared airport operating agreement is in place between the 3 partners, the city, the county, and the Flying Club. And that agreement identifies that any capital projects approved and ratified by the 2 councils are funded in a shared way, firstly by grants when we can get grants. But secondly, the remainder is to be paid by the City of Lacombe with a 50% share, the County of Lacombe with a 25% share, and the Flying Club with the remaining 25% share. So that's why the request tonight is for $25,000, which would be the city's 50% share. There are currently 2 already approved capital budget items for the airport in the 2026 budget. So one is the airport master plan, which is underway. And I'll just give a little commercial. There is a public open house on Thursday this week for that airport master plan. If any members of the public or members of council are interested in coming and talking about the airport and the future of the airport. And then there is secondly a $20,000 capital amount carried over from 2025 to cover the city's share of PAPI lights and windsock. And we're hopeful on a grant request that we made, and we're hopeful that there will be a funding announcement regarding that in the future. In terms of the operating agreement, there are, of course, deadlines for annual budget requests, but the agreement also states that when there's a single non-budgeted emergent maintenance or repair item, more than $5,000, the club may request cost sharing from the city and county. And so the Flying Club is making that request tonight in order that the work can proceed in 2026. At the June 12th meeting of the Lacombe Regional Airport Steering Committee, they passed a motion in support of this request. And so the next steps would be that should council approve the requested funds tonight, the Flying Club would approach Lacombe County as well. And then once that funding is confirmed, the city's engineering department would support the Flying Club in reviewing the submitted proposals and working with them to award the project work. Thank you, and administration, and I'm sure Mr. Fromm are here to support your deliberations. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for this item? Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Through to Director Hackett. In terms of Lacombe Days coming up in a couple of weeks, would this repair take place before Lacombe Days and the Lacombe Days breakfast? No. Okay, thank you.
Just for people viewing, the answer was no.
Councillor Dyke-Slag.
I just wanted to comment, the pictures speak for themselves in the presentation of the condition of the roadway. So as a result, I do appreciate also seeing the detail in the, this is a learning experience for all of us. So just seeing the agreement, the cost sharing. So I think it absolutely does follow all of those procedures. So I will be voting in favor of this ask.
If somebody wishes to make that motion, we could go ahead and vote on it. Councillor Span.
I will make that motion. I'm just trying to find it here. We have a page number for it.
178.
Okay. I move that council approves a request for up to 25,000 to cover emergent repairs of the taxiway at the Lacombe Regional Airport from the General Capital Reserve.
I see no further lights. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. That does bring us to the end of our requests for decision. Our next agenda item would be under notices of motion. This notice was served at our last council meeting, so this evening we'll be prepared to debate on it. I would invite Councillor Span to introduce his motion and speak to it.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. The notice of motion that I'm bringing forward is that council send a letter to the city of Grand Prairie and AB Munis endorsing and offering to second the resolution modernization of municipal investment authorities under the municipal investment regulation. I had brought up something similar to this a number of months back, that I wanted to have the province address their rules on investments and the restrictions on it. Grand Prairie kind of took the reins and ran with this, and I love what they've put together here. Yeah, we heard from our investment partners a few meetings back, and that to me just it highlighted the need for this advocacy. So I would love to get your support on this motion.
Just for additional context, Councillor Span did email out the resolution, so you should have all seen it if you have any questions on the resolution itself. The only thing that I had for a question, and it's not a deal breaker because it doesn't actually matter, but I don't recall the rules off the top of my head. I didn't have a chance to look. We may not be able to actually second it in theory, just because we're a similar size community. And I think the rules of Alberta Munis is that a seconder has to be a different category of community. However, that doesn't mean that we can't either endorse the resolution and potentially be listed as not necessarily a co-sponsor, but that type of thing. So like I said, it's not a deal breaker as far as my support for what you've brought forward, but just so that there's clarification that we may technically not be able to second this resolution, but the intent is to support it, and I also support that. So
yeah, I'm actually fairly confident that you're correct in that, and what my intention with this is to give Grand Prairie our support in it, and see if there's anything that we can do as far as further advocacy to help them with their motion. As far as officially endorsing it, I do believe you're correct.
Okay. And I guess my only additional comment is just, again, more so for the public to understand. The resolution is essentially asking for good governance practice, that all communities across the province have this same or similar ability to do things with their finances that are currently granted to some communities, but not to others. So that's essentially what is being asked. It's not necessarily that a change of practice is happening in Lacombe, but it's just that the ability would then exist where it currently does not for our community, but does for some. I think unless there's further comment, we could go ahead and Legislative Coordinator Post, did you have something to add?
We do have the Alberta Municipalities policy in regards to resolutions on the screen for clarification. The mover and the seconder shall represent at least two of the following categories of population. Okay. So I believe that both municipalities fit under the C point there.
Yes, we would be the same category. So what I stated as I suspected is true, but again, it doesn't negate the purpose of this motion, in my opinion. Is there any further question or comment? Coordinator Post, do you have something to add? No, okay. All right, well, I'll go ahead and call the question then. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
That that does take us to the end of our regular agenda, our public portion of the agenda. Just before we're prepared to move in camera, I will note that our next meetings are July 13th. That is the single meeting that we have in July. Otherwise, we resume our meeting schedule in August. That'll be August 10th and August 24th. So just make sure that your calendars are correct on that. And I will take a motion to move us in camera. Councillor Goings.
I move that we move in camera
At 7:40.
at 7:40. My apologies.
I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you.